All right, so we are moving into top 4 of Riley's Retro number 6. We are going to be seeing... Oh god, was this Ethan? I already forget the names. We are seeing Gabriel on the Decidueye Ninetales deck up against Ethan with Volcanion. And this matchup, while it is fire against a grass type, it is a very nuanced matchup. It has, because you have the Ninetales GX, the Alolan Ninetales GX, and with Choice Band, you can actually hit for 160 with its Ice Blade, I think is the name of the attack. It does 50 damage anywhere on the board you'd like. But then if you're hitting something in the active, you can attach that Choice Band, bump it up to 80 times 2 for the weakness, and it will do 160, plus a Feather Arrow from Decidueye will get you to that magic 180. So this is not a terrible matchup by any means. It's not great, but,
you know it is terrible? That hand.
Yeah, this hand is horrible, though. You are absolutely correct. And fortunately, these are going to be best 2 out of 3 matches in Top Cut. So, and the Bridget, actually, it was really funny because I was talking to Gabriel before the event, and he asked me, he's like, how necessary is Bridget in this deck? And my answer was, very, very necessary.
Right.
And of course, he gets it, the organic Bridget, right there at the opening turn.
No Lele required, and now he can just attach and retreat and get that free attack off on the Alolan Vulpix.
Well, so we had to pass, so technically that was the first turn.
That's right, that's right.
Yeah. But this is a horrendous hand. We're giving Decidueye lots of time, and that is something that Decidueye can really take advantage of, especially as you mentioned with the Beacon being able to set up some more Pokemon. If you're giving Decidueye time to get set up, you could be in for a rough ride. So,
well, and it's too bad too that our Volcanion player doesn't have any of the babies in play. You know, Volcanion can sit on bad hands for a while if they have that baby to put on some early pressure.
Yeah, exactly. Especially with the Steam Up, you're able to discard energy and then immediately charge them back into play with Power Heater, and you just put more damage out as well with that Power Heater on the Fire Weak Rowlets especially. And it's funny, with I'm bringing myself back to my days, and we're not going to see it here obviously because of the evolution, but back to my days of playing in this format when it was standard legal, and the DCE on the Vulpix, I have actually used Icy, I think it's Icy Snow with Vulpix. Is just a flat 20 for 2 colorless, but you attach a choice band to it, and it's 100 on the little Vulpix with weakness. So I have done that before. I have done that before in this matchup with the Vulpix as well. Like, your best attackers in this matchup are Vulpix and Ninetales. And
that's so funny.
And seeing what Gabriel's doing here, I don't know if they have a forest in hand at all. And I think it's a very wise thing in this matchup to be very selective when you put your Decidueyes down, because as soon as you evolve them into the GX, they give up 2 prizes. Whereas right now, if they're just Dartrix, that's 1 prize, that's fine. So because of this slow start for Ethan, it might not end up making much of a difference. You can just pressure them even more with those Feather Arrows in play, but we might see at some point in this series it come up where Gabriel chooses to not evolve a Decidueye on a turn or something. You could actually hold them, for the next turn. You do lose out on the damage, obviously, by not having them in play, but if you're denying your opponent 2 free prizes, that could be worth it, too.
And what could be really huge here is if Gabriel has that Lysander to pull up the Volcanion with the 2 energies on it. That could be massive, because that's the only attacker that they've got going on right now. So you put 100 damage on that. Looking at their hand, there's only 1 fire. They can't use Steam Up at all, so you potentially set up some Ice Path math right there.
Right, and that's the thing is, this Ninetales has 210 HP. That's really not easy for Volcanion to deal with early. And there's the Lysander, like you said.
Look at that.
The DCEs, though, yes, the first ICs had the evolution style promos. Those are really nice. Those DCEs with like the really, really nice, like, full card holo foil had like a really nice, like, like rainbow effect on them. Those are very, very cool cards. I actually loved that we got the Evolutions DCE prints. I thought those were really cool.
Okay, so we finally find the baby Volcanion, but it just feels so late.
Well, and especially because you can't even charge any energy into play, because you would have to attach the fire currently in hand to even power heater. So
Right.
I guess you could switch into it just to not give up the prizes. You could even boss up the Decidueye or the Dartrix, excuse me, with energy on it, I guess. Or you could just concede. I think that's what's happening. Wow.
Okay, and I mean, I feel it though, right? I mean, you see the Forest of Giant Plants come into play. Like, you don't want to be wasting your field blower on that.
There we go. No, it definitely does save itself. We might have some like dropped frames for a little bit, but we might have missed like a turn or something. It didn't reset on my phone yet, so maybe we're okay. I don't know.
Yeah, I think we're back.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, we just missed the pass. I mean, this is a better hand from the Volcanion player, but they have 3 VS Seekers.
Oh god, and the Sycamore with 3 VS Seekers. This is just so unfortunate. Horrendous draws from Ethan here.
Oh gosh, and this hand is not much better. I mean, at least they have the steam up opportunity to start using the baby Volcanion, and they are hitting into a Shaman starter, but it still just doesn't feel that great.
Yeah, that's horrible. And we have the Lele, so we can go get that Bridget, assuming it's in the deck.
I do want to say, until this stream, Riley, I had no idea Alolan Vulpix had a second attack. I
It
just thought it just
does.
used Beacon.
No, busted secondary attacker. Trust me. You're like the look on your opponent's face when you look down at your board and you're like, all right, cool, and you like confidently do it too. You're like, all right, I know my outs. DCE, Choice Band, Icy Snow, 100 damage, and they're just like, what?
I love
Blake,
that. That's so funny.
Blake can win you a game, y'all. Yes, Blake can win you a game. Oh god,
Now I'm
that's
wondering
yeah.
here. I think Gabriel plays. Let me go check the deck list. He does play a Tapu Koko. Okay, but he opts not to go for it. I was wondering if we might see some kind of like strange like Sky Return into a Tapu Koko play, but it looks like he has the float stones there, so he can just go ahead and beacon right away.
And getting 2 Vulpix down means you can beacon, but still have the follow-up into Ninetales on the next turn. So that's a pretty good option. I think it's probably better than getting the Coco. But Flying Flip is also decent in this matchup because it's not weak to fire. So you can actually get some like a Flying Flip or 2 off to set up some numbers for Ice Blade as well. So yeah, Coco is not a bad card in this matchup either. And the Natural Figure Retreat is great.
Right.
Get the Dartrix Ninetales off that beacon. And once again, we're just looking at a hand from Volcanion that is not good. However, we have that baby Volcanion in the active, so you can go in with a Lysander on this Rowlet, take a KO with Power Heater, and put some energy into play. So this is kind of what you were saying last game, that you can sit on a dead hand if you're Volcanion. This is obviously not the best hand, and like you wish you had more going on with it, but you did just take a prize. You have two Pokemon in play with energy on them, and you're putting out a lot of early pressure, being able to chase down those Rowlets and Dartrixes before they can evolve fully. So you do have time, theoretically, if you are Volcanion here. So hopefully you have the time to draw out of this hand.
Although the Choice Band DCE right away coming down on that Ninetales is definitely really concerning if you're the Volcanion player.
Yes, that is very concerning. You are one Decidueye Feather Arrow and a Lysander away from losing your biggest threat, so definitely scary. Yeah, Bacon is such a sweet setup move though, right? And the fact that it was a free attack was what made it good. Like it would if it cost any energy to do it, it wouldn't have been good. But because you were able to go attach to something to retreat into it, that's what made it really good. It was just such a strong setup Pokemon, and you saw it played in so many decks that didn't even play the Ninetales. Like playing the Ninetales was like considered like an innovation of this deck, to be honest.
Right, definitely. Yeah, we see him. Okay, so there's the Lysander right away off the top of Lele.
So what I was saying before about the feather arrow being needed, but you can just do this first. Hit this for 160, and there's no way to heal outside of Olympia. There's no way to heal any damage off this Volcanion. So the floatstone not gonna help. We do at least. So
Yeah,
actually,
I was doing some math in my head if there was some kind of like crazy steam up turn that they could go on potentially there, but it all hinged on them drawing into an actual draw supporter, and the
yeah,
floatstone's not going to cut it.
definitely. But you do have at least a way to get into the baby Volcanion again, and you can put more energy onto another one with this Brooklet Hill. So you can at least charge up some additional energy into play that way. You could even double steam up and hit for 80 damage, which is pretty good math, and it might force a ice path. Excuse me. So we'll see what the choice is from the following turn if we're able to. Like, do we ice path to clean this Ninetales off? But now you at least have more threats sort of established. Right. But yeah, again, this is Floatstone, Starmie ain't gonna cut it.
I think I like the ice path here potentially. Just move the 80 off because you know that they don't have much going on in their hand. You know that they don't have a Staryu on board ready to become a Starmie, so they're really going to need a lot of energy to be able to hit that 210 damage. I think just preserving the clean Ninetales is the right play here.
Right. I guess the only concern is that you could theoretically lose, right? If this is Ryan's list, I think he only played 3 Volcanions, so that would still do 220 with triple steam up. Obviously, it's asking for a lot to get that many energy into hand after your opponent's done nothing, but theoretically, this Ninetales could go down anyway, even if you Ice Path here, so I don't know if that enters into the consideration or anything. Yes, it is a shame that the shiny Vulpix looks so similar, though, because it does look exactly the same. They did Blake 30. Poor Blake. And there is the Ice Path. Okay.
I also the top of Lele's top deck.
There's life.
Finally.
I have never seen someone zoom so fast through a deck. That was the fastest, like, zoom right to the Sycamore.
I mean, it's unfortunate the Starmie's going to hit the bin there, but, you know.
This played, I think it plays 2 Rescue Stretcher. It plays at least 1 Rescue Stretcher, so the Starmie could come back. And we do find the Volcanion, so we're actually 1 energy short from being able to get that crazy KO that I was talking about with triple steam up.
But I will say that this shows, though, that the Ice Path was definitely the right move here.
For sure, yep. Yeah, you always want to be choosing those attacks, right?
The only thing that I don't like about the Decidueye players' board right now is the fact that their bench is pretty clogged. They almost need to take a turn to like Sky Return, which just feels really bad, but they really need that extra bench spot to get another Decidueye up.
Well, Sky Return could be great with a Lysander. Lysander up the damage Volcanion on the bench, take a KO with Sky Return, clean off the bench spot, and then put up like a Lele or something that's harder to take out. But at least the Leles also provide some utility as good attackers too in this matchup. Like Leles are also very good attackers in this matchup. So I think the board, while it looks really awkward and the Shaman definitely doesn't want to be there, the other Pokemon at least aren't like they're not misplaced or anything. Like I think you'd rather that Shaman be another Rowlet perhaps, but everything else on there actually has pretty good use in this matchup. The Leles are actually like your attackers. Like I said, the Blake and the Ninetales are also like your best attackers here too. So it looks awkward, but it's not as bad as it may seem.
And actually, so I don't even think that you need the Lysander play on the Volcanion EX, because if he Sky Returns into... Oh my goodness, throw it all out the window. There's a Delinquent.
I didn't even know there was a Delinquent in this list, but Delinquent to 0... We've been talking about this. For those watching on YouTube who didn't see the earlier rounds, we have been talking about this earlier. The Delinquent play, the Delinquent to 0, we saw Cash in an earlier round choosing to keep 4 cards in hand very, very intentionally to play around an opponent's Delinquent. And this is an open deck list format. This tournament is open deck list. So, I mean, I don't remember if there was a way to play around that from Ethan, but that was That was so detrimental. I mean, now you have a 0 card hand. At least this time you have some energy in play and some attackers established, but wow, that was huge.
Yeah, what I was originally going to say before, the bomb just got dropped there was what you can do is you can potentially even sky return into this baby Volcanion and then just say, okay, there's 110 HP on it. I can just ping this later because it has a float stone on it. And now you have a potential 3 prize turn between that Volcanion and then the Volcanion EX on the bench.
And that's exactly what we're looking like we're going to see. And it's important to note, I think that play is a little bit less valid if there's no tool available, because you could play around that with Fighting Fury Belt. And you could also play around that still with Fighting Fury Belt with this active. But there we saw the Lysander top deck and an N off the prizes, 2 N off the prizes. That was actually like probably outside of a Sycamore, that's probably one of your better top decks there, if not like the next best card. You take out the big threat in the Ninetales, you take 2 prize cards, and you get yourself a draw supporter off the prizes.
And what's so funny here, right, is remember on the first turn, the Volcanion player discarded 3 VS Seeker. And so they've seen more VS Seeker hit the bin, I think, at this point than they have actual draw supporters.
Yeah. Oh, Icy Wind! Icy Snow. I forget which one it's called. I forget, but please. I want it. I want to see it so bad. Your time has come.
We also have to remember they have a Shaman in hand too, so they can definitely draw some cards this turn.
And we see the VS Seeker. Oh my god, we could get another Delinquent. Wait, there's a Skyla in here?
When did the Skyla hit the bin? Okay.
I don't remember that either.
I see it in the deck list, though.
Wow.
A lot of one-up supporters in this list. This is a very interesting teched out list.
Oh no, Vulcan lost.
They going for the, what did they grab there?
Ultra Ball? It must be the Ultra Ball, yeah.
I note though, so they play 1 Rescue Stretcher, run 1 Revitalizer. They only play 1 Ninetales GX, so you might be right. They might be going for that Icy Wind attack here.
Yeah, and I mean, well, it actually is kind of unfortunate because your opponent's on 3 prizes. This puts them back on even prizes, taking out this Vulpix. If you were on 4 or 2, it might be a little bit better. You'd definitely rather have the Ninetales in this situation. But me, as the observer here and the Blake lover, would very much prefer to see the little Vulpix take down this big Volcanion. And that's something that I love about the card game, is that you look at this massive legendary Pokemon that's like, and there it is, the Icy Snow.
Incredible.
I feel so vindicated that I've been talking about that this whole match and it happened. That's it. I can die happy now. You've done it, Blake. You've done it.
And we see the Tapu Koko hit the board, so if there is ever, an awkward point where the Decidueye player's down to 1 prize and that Volcanion's still around, you can just flying flip and take a knockout that way.
Yeah, and it puts up your free retreat option as well. The only thing is that Gabriel is down a few DCEs at this point. I guess they reattach when they attach to the Shaman, but I think they're down at least 1 or 2, maybe. Obviously, 2 after this. Vulpix goes down. Oh, enjoy your dinner. Thanks for playing, Vulcan. Congrats on top 4. The dream 2-2 bubble into top 4. Oh, we whiffed the KO.
He only was able to steam up 1 time, so he could only do 50 to the Vulpix. Vulpix could pick up another KO.
Blake is going on a rampage. This is the best day of my life. I can't. Blake is about to take, it could take another prize here. You could even, I think that's probably the best play. I don't know how many Lysanders you have access to. I think we've seen at least the 1 played. So there's the 1. See the Ultra Ball.
Yeah, we might actually see the first Decidueye of the series hitting the board, I think, because none came out last game.
The B in Blake stands for broken. Mimi. Oh. Mwah. Guys, I'm so excited. Blake KO. Okay, well now we can take the KO with Feather Arrow though. So does that change things?
Yeah, because I saw off the Ultra Ball, I believe one of the cards they discarded was actually a Choice Band. So I'm wondering
Hmm.
what else is in hand because if they're taking the KO with Feather Arrow, they could have just held on to the choice band and then you're dealing more damage to those GXs.
Right, and now do you push up this Lele? I mean, you're only getting hit for 40 with weakness, so I guess putting up like something like the Turtonator or the I still don't know why it's called Blake. Fletcher, it's in one of my other YouTube videos. I talked about it. Um, you'll have to go digging. I'll make you watch my YouTube videos.
There's a good way to farm some views.
Right? Exclamation point YouTube in chat, y'all. Um, so there's a rescue stretcher though. So now we can go into the Ninetales. Blake's growing up.
Okay.
Big Blake. What's a YouTube? Oh my god. Okay, Boomer. And the Sycamore. So what is the other card in hand? It was a Dartrix. So yeah, you mentioned off the Ultra Ball discarding the Choice Belt band. God, why did they do this to me?
Which article of clothing is it?
I still didn't even know. It took me the longest time to realize, so many choices, nice, that choice belt was an actual belt because I'm so used to it looking like a headband that I just assumed it was a headband. And I like
Isn't
then
there
they
isn't there a promo of it where it's a primate literally wearing it on its head? So I
I
don't think it's just
yeah,
you, Riley.
it's not just me, thank you. But then I did see that they released, like when they announced the new tool mechanic or whatever, Scarlet and Violet show a new choice belt art, and it clearly has like a clip thing for like a belt, and I was like, oh my god, it's a belt, I get it.
That's so funny.
There is a primate with choice band, but I think there's another one. Isn't there another promo choice belt art though? Maybe not, I don't know, but
Might be getting my choice items mixed up
yeah,
here.
right, what Mimi said, too many choices. So it's interesting. So I want to just point out what we just saw here because, right, like you mentioned, discarding the whole thing that started it all, the choice band, and you went in with that Ninetales. But if you had actually attached the choice band to the Vulpix and Icy Snowed, you could have actually done the exact same amount of damage without giving up two prizes. And because you ended up doing 100 to this Turtonator with weakness, but you actually could have done the exact same amount with that Icy Snow after weakness. So, and then you don't give up two prizes. That's a slight
Right.
nuance. I don't know if it matters in this case because there are so many free prizes available on the bench anyway that Shaman, both of those Decidueyes are easy prizes for a Volcanion to take out. But just an interesting nuance that it's really curious why that choice band hit the discard pile instead of something like that Dartrix that was the last card in hand off the Sycamore.
Yeah, because well, also too, right? There's a world where if you know that you have the chance to end the next turn, if you put the choice band down, you use Ice Blade, you're doing 160 to the Turtonator, and you have these two pings from your feather arrows. Okay, so you can knock out the Turtonator, or you can potentially strand it active and ping the bench Volcanion, and then you sit behind a Lele knowing that they're only on one card.
And that's an interesting decision to not retreat into a Lele like you just mentioned, because just a switch card
Yeah.
into that Volcanion will send us to a game 3.
I miss the Silver Mirror. What was the name of that one in Plasma Blast? I like
I
that
think it's
item.
just called Silver Mirror.
Is it?
The no, I think it's the no plasma Pokemon can't damage the Pokemon it's attached to or something. No belt
That
promo,
was
just the
always
usual
my
gold.
favorite
Okay.
accessory. I thought it was great.
You just walk around with a mirror, like you can't hit me. This like
Yeah, bring
huge,
in
like this huge Thundurus comes up to you and is about to punch you, and you're just like, no, 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 no. I got a mirror. You can't hit me.
yeah, Silver Mirror, and then it was Silver Bangle
Hmm.
was the OG choice item.
Bangle looked like it just hurt though. Like that was a spiky bangle. That bracelet would
Yeah.
hurt. And there's the delinquent in the mulligan hand. God, delinquent in. I mean, it was impactful though. It stole a turn. I mean, I honestly think if Ethan didn't top deck the Lysander that turn and top deck a completely dead useless card, I think that would have been the game right there, to be honest. Like, I don't remember the board state. Like, they had some attackers set up, but like being that far behind in tempo could have been huge.
Yeah, I think now especially that we see that this is a pretty live hand from the Volcanion player, that I think that the time might have just come and gone
Yeah.
for this Decidueye deck. Now, that's not to say that it can't, we can't see something crazy happen, but this is definitely going to be a lot more of an active game from the Volcanion player than we've seen previously.
And again, we have the organic Bridget. So we have seen turn 1 Bridget in all 3 of these games from Decidueye, which is great. Vulcan, yes, you can cook ramen and watch at the same time. You can also, hey, post it in Midnight Pasta in Midnight Pasta in the Discord. It's ramen, but hey, throw it in there.
It's a noodle.
It's a noodle. Yes, all nudes are welcome. So yeah, we see that Bridget organic. You want processed Bridget? Well, okay. So the story behind organic is it's better than like, because people would say like, oh, you had it raw. You know, our caster friend.
Oh, no.
So if you say you're like, oh, I had raw Bridget, like it sounds very crass. So I actually had a friend named Bridget who also played Pokemon, and she absolutely despised it. So, yeah, and then Hannah, who my friend Horse Girl Hannah, who has played or co-casted on the channel for one of my streams, she calls, because she plays Shadow Rider all the time, she would call her hand attachment for turn organic attach, because you could use Underworld Door. So she'd be like, to differentiate, she'd call it the organic attachment. So I thought that was adorable. So I'm like, I'm going to use that for other stuff. So now natural, no, but see, I prefer organic though, because it's like all natural, farm raised, organic Bridget.
And one of those farm-raised organic Bridget targets is about to hit the discard pile with the power heater.
Yeah, and it's starting with that Coco was great because it's a wall. It's not weak to fire. Like, it's something that it can sit there. It has the natural free retreat, but you know, you can sit behind it. But yes, being able to chase it down. And this time you have the Lysander to take a KO, but you also have a follow-up already in hand with a Sycamore. So this is like the perfect start for Volcanion. I think you would have preferred maybe one more energy to get rid of to feed that power heater to max effect, but this is a great start. You take a potential Decidueye out of play before it can ever evolve and take your prizes, so you know, start the prize race. So that's a really good opening turn. But let's see how Gabriel can respond.
Yeah, we see the DCE coming down on the Vulpix already.
No, Mimi, that's not what I said. No. No.
Okay, so we see a Sycamore come down. This is a pretty strong follow-up turn, though, by Gabriel. I'm wondering if there's any argument for potentially going for a flying flip here instead of digging for your one-of copy of Alola Ninetales.
Right, because it does set up the Volcanion on the bench to get KO'd without needing Feather Arrows. It also means that you could potentially use Feather Arrows as like a replacement for needing the Choice Band. God, why do they have to make them both Choice with a B? Like, it's the same amount of letters too.
Just wait until we get Choice Boots. It's coming.
No, I can't. God, Choice. That'd be funny though. Choice Boot.
Although maybe, so I guess like in attaching to the benched Alolan Vulpix and being able to brooklet out another
Choice
one.
Hat.
Yeah, Choice Hat. You kind of like give yourself some insurance if you know your hand's not that great and you need to beacon into things. The only thing is you run into an issue where they just top deck another Lysander.
So are you do you chase down the Vulpix on the bench? You actually can't get a KO on it currently, so maybe you just target a Dartrix? I think you definitely play this Lysander though and take a prize if you can. Again, getting more energy into play. I think it's going to be the Dartrix because you don't actually hit the Vulpix for enough. You're actually 10 short on getting the KO, so you're still denying potential Decidueyes, which is good. Now you're going to even prizes. And you still have a Sycamore in hand, so...
Right. I still think the flying flip. I guess we'll never know, right? Because we don't know what's in Gabriel's hand. But I still
True.
think the flying flip there could have been a pretty strong play to, just like you said, start getting the math going in your favor.
Well, especially since your Rowlets and Dartrixes have been picked off like this so aggressively, it's going to be that much harder to establish Decidueyes. So you're missing that extra damage that could have been in play if you just flying flipped once or twice. Because you actually, if you had this DCE on the Tapu Koko currently and had flying flipped last turn, you could go for another flying flip here if you want to. Your opponent hasn't shown a really strong hand. Obviously, we know they have a Sycamore there, but they haven't shown to have a really strong hand beyond just having two Lysanders back to back and KOs. So you could say, hey, I'm just going to keep pressuring you until you do something more and force you to overextend and then end you later and then go like end, knock out your big threat or something. So yeah, I think the flying flip makes a lot of sense there.
Especially when you look at the deck count right now. I mean, the Volcanion player still has 42 cards in their deck. That's just screaming to be end late game into absolutely nothing.
Absolutely.
But I think we're going to see what you were talking about earlier. Interesting delinquent there. What you were talking about earlier, holding the Decidueyes, and that way, you're denying the potential for a Lysander KO with the Volcanic Heat on the Volcanion EX.
Right. Because it's again, and that's where the flying flip again would have been huge. And you see the Ice Blade instead, like that sets up math too. But you could have had, that could have been 40 on everything if you chose to go in with the Koko, and you'd be forcing your opponent to take an odd prize here with the Koko in the active. It's fairly unlikely that this Ninetales goes down this turn, so maybe just thinking like, I'm going to start putting out some more pressure with this and hide behind this so I don't lose any more prizes, but...
Right. This just seems, though, like it's snowballing very quickly, though, without the flying flips, without the damage buildup on the Volcanion player's side of the field.
Right, and I mean, if you actually like do the math, 2 flying flips would only be 10 less damage on that Volcanion. Like, it doesn't actually make much of a difference, but you would have had it everywhere else and had a Pokemon in the active that doesn't get really pressured by this power heater as well. So interesting choices. Again, that's like a nuance of matchups like this, and this Decidueye deck specific. Oh my god, I can't. So many E's specifically. I'm trying to say
so
deck.
Many fun words to say in one
Listen,
sentence.
I'm going to explain this. I'm trying to say deck, not dick specifically. I'm focusing on keeping the E in deck. That's why there's E in my head. Yes, but the nuance of this Decidueye deck specifically is that the math is really important, right? The numbers are very, very important. Where you put your damage counters with Decidueye, but also how you get that damage into play and how much you can get in play. You maximize that. So it's a really interesting nuance of like knowing when to use Flying Flip, and obviously we have the benefit of caster vision right now, but
right.
Maybe you're not thinking about that, and maybe you're worried about a certain card in your opponent's hand that they might have, but definitely things to look at. And when you're playing your games, just look at what your best options. Look at all your attackers.
And we also have the benefit too, at least, we have all these lists that we can look at separate just from the game that's going on in front of us. I was going back and watching some of the 2017 matches from the NAIC and just like trying to familiarize myself again with some of the different intricacies of the format, like the flying flip, or like when do you put this Decidueye into play against a Volcanion player. And I actually really like the Volcanion player's board state right now. I think it's very strong with the 2 energies split on your EX and GX. They're definitely threatening a lot right now.
And now you've committed these Decidueyes to the board, so this third Lysander that's just waiting in Ethan's hand to pick off one of those, especially with the Floatstone. You have like the Guzma before it was Guzma. This is Guzma at home here, folks. The Floatstone Lysander.
Right.
You can pick off one of those Decidueyes with Volcanic Heat here. You are missing the energy still, so you might not be able to do that, but you could even target down. Actually, no, you're still short of taking out the Rowlet too, so... But, you still have the the threat of at any time those Decidueyes can just get Gust KO'd.
Right. I like that. The poor man's Guzma, or the poor woman's Guzma.
Yeah. Guzma at home. Well, that was why when Guzma was printed and it was, the most played card in that format. And I was just going to say, we top deck the fire here would be so good. We get the fire top deck. That top deck was very fire. But yeah, people were complaining relentlessly about Guzma because it was just like it required so little effort. And because you could switch something out of the active, like you could never get stalled with it either. So there was it was a very like unpunishing card. It removed a lot of Lysander stall was like no longer an option because Guzma switched you too.
Right, it's kind of like for anyone out there who plays the base Neo format, if you play free retreaters in a deck, you have no reason to play Gust of Wind because you have double Gust, which is the same effect as Guzma.
Right.
Which is granted your opponent's choosing who switches, but if you have all free retreaters, it doesn't matter.
Right.
And yeah, I think this one's gotten away from Gabriel really quickly here.
Mimi, don't think that one snuck under the radar. I see you. Yeah, and I would rather have Guzma than Boss any day, for sure. We do see the end, though, but yes, this game definitely feels like it's very quickly slipping away. I guess our remaining outs here are Hope This End sticks, which it looks pretty bad. I guess we have Nitro Tank, though.
Yeah, I was about to say there has been no GX attack used yet.
Hate for your perfectly innocent comments to not get seen. Well, they are on screen and they are going on YouTube, so perfectly innocent my ass. What? Give us Cynthia instead of research as well. Yeah, I agree with that though. I discard draw 7. The fact that we have that reprinted in Scarlet and Violet base set is very unfortunate. And here's the flying flip. Finally getting what you wanted.
It's a little late, but I will say it is going to pick up the KO on that Volcanion EX, which is nice, and it does take away a Nitro Tank target. But that being said, you're still going to be staring down 2 massive Turtonators on the following turn.
So here's the thing. Well, I guess the second Turtonator is kind of tough, though, to overcome. Yes, say hi to YouTube, chat. Say hi to YouTube. Vulcan is what's up.
Well, and too, there's a Brooklet Hill in hand, so you can just go get another Volcanion EX. So actually... you'd rather just draw Sycamore off the end. If you're going to draw some not necessarily live cards, these are probably what you want to see here.
Right, you can thin out your deck a little bit more. You can get more attackers in play. And like you said, just put all your energy on 2 different just big Turtonators.
And so imagine here, right? If this was like the 3rd flying flip of the game, that would have saved multiple Decidueye pings. You could be targeting down the Turtonators. You could be going after baby Volcanions. There's just so many other things that I feel like you could be doing.
And this energy top deck is actually pretty good too. It just gives you a little bit more flexibility. You might need it to steam up at some point if maybe your opponent comes with a Lele on the next turn. So you could have that to just close out the game with steam up and Bright Flame. So I mean, you don't have a great hand, but it's playable enough, and you're so far ahead with this Nitro Tank incoming.
Right. And actually, because of that energy top deck now, what you can do is... I think I mentioned this in an earlier round that didn't make it on. Oh, interesting choice. Yeah. What I was going to say you can do is you can actually split up your energies. Mm-hmm. And so because you have that energy in hand, then you can put 2 on both Turt and then 2 on one of the Volcanion. And so then no matter what, you're always going to have an attacker.
Right.
But it looks like there might not have been enough energies in the discard pile to even go for that kind of a Nitro Tank play.
So I think what we're going to see here is a Lysander to bring up this baby Volcanion on the bench, potentially. And I think that's the reason why... I think that's the reason why we didn't see the Volcanion EX taken off the Brooklet Hill, because it just becomes an immediate target for this Lysander and to get stranded.
We have 3 owls now.
And we have 3 owls, and the flying flip is still putting out pressure. So this actually isn't over yet, folks. The Volcanion has a 2 retreat cost. You can put some pressure out with Power Heater and put the pressure on, but you have the Coco in the active. You have triple Feather Arrow plus flying flip. So I don't know. This one is not looking completely over. There's not quite a checkmate established here.
And I like that choice span there on the Tapu Koko because you potentially open yourself up to a play where otherwise you might be like 20 or 30 damage short on taking a KO on one of these Turtonators for game, but now you can just Lysander it up and have a big flying flip and take the knockout that way.
Yeah, flying flip for 50, and that was what we saw that a lot when Ho-Oh was introduced to the format, because Ho-Oh was actually weak to lightning, so people will be able to flying flip with a choice band to do 100 damage to the active Ho-Oh, which was absurd. But even flying flip for 50 is also really good. Like, flying flip Coco is a very, very strong card.
Listen, when you can Kiawe turn 1 for 4 energy, I think the absurdity of a flying flip for 100 is certainly a fair answer.
That's fair. And the Brooklet Hill top deck is not going to do it, though. So this one could spiral out of control really quickly. It's still not over on board. I think Ethan still has at least one more turn before it's turning into a, like, okay, I need to draw something now. But it's pretty much there. Like, we're like right about there.
Yes,
DCE down.
Yeah, so we'll probably see a knockout this turn, I think, on the Turtonator that has the 120 on it, which I like because then you take 3 energies off the board. And then we're also seeing that DC coming down on the Vulpix, meaning that if there's a rescue stretcher found, or even, the Vulpix could get in there again and deal 100 damage. We could go down that route again, which I think we actually might have to, right? Because wasn't the only rescue stretcher already played?
I don't recall. I think it might have been. I'm not sure, but yeah, wow. And the Volcanion. Oh no. And I was even gonna say before this draw for turn, I'm like, what is the best card? Like, obviously, like Sycamore VS Seeker is probably your best top deck, but like you need 2 cards here. You need to top deck an Energy and a Lysander or a VS Seeker to win the game. So you wouldn't have been able to win the game off of one single top deck if you're Ethan there. But yeah, Volcanion EX is definitely not the card you wanted to see off the top either.
Well, and I think it comes back to what we were talking about earlier, right? Where if you're going as aggressive, and I think this is actually just going to be game.
Yeah, Lysander.
Razor Leaf can take the knockout on the Turtonator. I think what happened is the Volcanion player, you're going so hard so fast that you still have 35 cards in your deck when you only have 2 prize cards left, which is incredibly high. And that just is so many dead cards then that you're going to be seeing if you get end.
Right. Well, here is the Lysander, and this was a very, very well played end game from Gabriel, and I don't really know that there was much Ethan could have done to play around it outside of, as you suggested, splitting energy with the energy that was top deck. So maybe a little bit of an oversight, but then you run the risk of not being able to KO a Lele if that comes up and hits your Turtonator. So we'll never know, but incredibly well-played games. And Decidueye taking out Volcanion to move on to the finals. Gabriel, can he repeat?
Incredible.